Hello, my name's Ryan. I am the person with Unreal open making fish game every day. There are a bunch of us, but I'm the person most in charge of the newest update, the chemistry and equipment update. Just as a starter, I'm not a YouTuber, so I'm going to do my best to be entertaining and not wander endlessly, but I do tend to wander endlessly. So, I apologize for that, but let's get to it before this turns into 2 hours of me rambling alone in my office. So I wanted to show off what we've done because it's been a while and it's hard to know what we've been up to. We've had a year full of things, but there are a lot of them behind the background, and then we transitioned right into one that's pretty low on screenshots. So while I am constructing a red yarn fort in my office, I think it's probably best to have a walkthrough of it to explain where we're going and why that is. So as you can see here, I have some new tools. These are extremely ugly right now. They're development focused first, but let's get to the big picture. So it explains what we're looking at and why we're looking at it. In short, Fish Game has a lot of stuff going on underneath the hood already, but we've always known that to do an honest and accurate representation of what it means to keep fish, we would need to have more going on than currently was. For example, the nitrogen cycle is something most people who keep fish know about. It's when nutrients are converted by bacteria from one state to another until they are less toxic for fish. And the plants eat those and then convert into food that animals eat. And in the wild, it's called a cycle because it cycles around. And fish keepers rely on that as well. So for that to really truly be happening in game, we need to have bacteria and ammonia, nitrites, nitrates, so that it can cycle through those things, and so that the decisions you make while playing the game have some meaning. So what are we looking at? This was, so if you've seen this before, all these numbers are a little wild right now. We will get to that. If you've played the game before, you've probably seen this stuff. And this hinted at us working on chemistry, having chemistry. It's supposed to be the beginnings of the underlying system I talked about a second ago. But I always knew it would need more than this. So at this point, I've developed a much more robust system. It is a bit like making a car from scratch and having pieces laying all over the shop. But with every piece we add to the pile, the more like a car it behaves. So I haven't counted in a little while, but there's something like 20 or 30 of these here. And the concept, if I can back out of the fun-looking stuff into the crazy territory for a minute, is that each of these things interact with each other in interesting ways. So, for example, waste interacts with ammonia by becoming ammonia. It degrades into that. And then ammonia, let's see. Oh, no, let's back over here. Bacteria pushes ammonia toward nitrites, and nitrites toward nitrates, and then stops. That's called the nitrogen cycle. It's there. What's interesting about this sheets thing, if you know what you're looking at, is that it shows the entire possibility space and locates holes. So currently the blank ones are places I haven't researched yet, probably because they're more complicated. And I got to focus on the stuff that's less complicated and more to the center of why we're doing what we're doing. So obviously nitrogen cycle, pH, CO2, oxygen. Those have gotten the most attention, and then there's blank spots that have yet to be filled in. If it's an X, it means there's no interaction there. So light does not change KH. That's ridiculous. There's nothing there. So by filling this out completely, I can be certain we haven't missed something. So anyway, I locate these relationships. I find real research that backs that up, or some person on the internet with a blog who's measured something and has evidence for it, or worst case scenario, 50 people on Reddit say this thing is true and there's nothing else available that I can find. Those will always get upgraded to science if we can locate it, but worst case scenario, someone on the internet has an opinion and it ends up filling a slot. So then we go back to the game, and here we are with this graph. It will eventually get a polished pass. Players will get a prettier looking thing. But the idea of this is it's supposed to teach you about fish keeping in the stuff that's a little less visible. So we have a lot of little tools to try and make it more readable. So here are different groupings of things that might go together. So beginners need to care a lot about oxygen, carbon dioxide, ammonia, perhaps algae. This will all get updated. But anyway, by selecting these things, we're sort of saying, hey, pay attention to these things when they're connected to each other. But you can select and deselect whatever you want, and it shows different things. Right, everything's kind of at 0. So let's mess around with it a little bit. I've got developer tools on, so I can just directly manipulate this graph, and it'll make more sense. I've talked for a while, and you've had nothing to look at. So let's make some stuff move around. So we're going to speed the world up as well. It's going to go 10 times faster than normal so that we can see things go. So what I've done is I have saturated the carbon dioxide to such a point that it would be extremely dangerous for fish. And as time goes on, the CO2 is attempting to reach equilibrium with the air again. It's called Henry's Law. You can look it up, but essentially the carbon dioxide concentration in the air is much higher than what can enter the water, but because of the balance between between gases and liquids, whatever, it ends up at 0.6 parts per million. That doesn't matter to a game player so much. The graph can, and the little like dangerous for fish, ideal plant growth thing. This gives you an idea of where you want to be. You can go outside these if you want. It's just a suggestion, but you got to know what you're doing to go outside of it. And that's half the fun of messing with the puzzle of the real world inside a box. So this is going to drift down to 0.6, which is somewhere near the bottom. Now, while carbon dioxide's doing that, let's say that we're going to put some fake fish in. It's just number fish. We could spawn some in the real tank, but it's more chaos that way. So we're going to just play with this number. I'm going to lock it so it doesn't find out there are no fish and jump back down to 0. So this is like a pretty heavily stocked tank. And you can see now that there are fish, air quotes, breathing in here. The CO2 is climbing back up, and it will find some equilibrium where the downward force of it gassing out and the upward force of stuff breathing out balances, and it will end up staying at some place. Actually, let's really rock it forward and find where that is. It's pretty darn high. Now, also, you can see the water's going brown in here, so let's look at that. I did not plan for this, but of course it's happening. So, where's waste? There you are. Yeah, it's all the way to the top. It might be hard to see in your video, but I see a brown line climbing in the deep history over here. So if we just drag it down, the water clears out a bit. But then, yep, there it is. It's going up. It's the fake fish are pooping in the water, and they're adding a lot of stuff there. It will get converted, and a lot of things hook into waste. So plants would be, is it adding ammonia yet? No, I've unhooked that for now. Anyway, plants would be happy about this situation, but obviously the fish would not. And okay, we'll go back to CO2. I get distracted. See, I am already getting rambly. So with the number of animals that are here, this changes. Now the temperature is icy cold right now because it just happened to start at 0. But if we change the temperature, this shifts the balance around, and now it's gassing out faster, which is in the tooltips. It's chaos right now, but that might be in there. No, it's buried under surface agitation, but so it's around 200 right now, and if I lower the temperature, I'll go back to it. Oh yeah, and now it's like 40. So I need to mess around with the tooltips a little bit more, but in the calculation, surface agitation is getting adjusted by the temperature, and so this balancing act is changing. Now, let's look at pH, because pH and CO2 are really strongly connected. If you don't know, pH is a measurement of the number of hydrogen atoms in a solution, and why that matters is that it's highly reactive with other things, and so you put your hand in something that's highly acidic and it will start doing chemical reactions with your hand and eat it up, and that's why we care about acids and bases. To be clear, I'm not a chemist. I have just been reading a lot for this update, but anyway, for fish that matters for a lot of reasons, and it turns out that carbon dioxide counts as an acid because when it enters water, it reacts to water, things split apart, stuff happens, and hydrogen atoms get thrust into the water. So, unless you have KH in the water, which is carbonates, but minerals that act as a buffer and absorb a lot of the CO2 stuff interaction that's happening, I will immediately start sounding like I don't know what I'm talking about if I do too much, but I do have my sources laid out next to me, so I promise you the research is there. But anyway, when you have more buffer in the water, it means that the change in CO2 is far less intense. It swings a lot less because basically the buffer of the KH is absorbing some of the effect of the acids, and so you have let's say that the KH is that teal, and when we've changed the CO2 a lot, you know, this is the range that the purple, the pH changes to. There's some swing in there, but if we lower the KH to like reverse osmosis water, like basically not in there at all, then suddenly the change in CO2 goes into a different range. Now we're in acidic water, and if we go really high again, we're in super acidic water. And why this matters is that certain fish care about what pH water they're in, and you can find yourself putting a fish in the wrong kind of water, or it was in the right kind of water, but then your CO2 changed in a way that you weren't maybe aware of, because let's say you planted stuff and the plants cared about, where'd it go? There we are. The plants cared about CO2, and this changed the amount of CO2 you were trying to go for, and then it shifted your pH, and that smashes into your fish. Now, this might seem like a lot. It is a lot, and it confuses a lot of fish keepers, especially beginners. So what's good about this is that we're making it more visible. With everything I add to this system here, the more I personally understand about it, and the clearer I think it is, the more it can be played with. which makes for interesting situations, interesting puzzles. So you won't start the game looking at this. This is not a way to sell a video game. Why it matters is that, let's say you have a fish. Let's say you have a fish in a tank and it is unhappy. Now it's going to be unhappy in here for a lot of reasons, but let's just say that it's complaining about its pH, which it's not hooked up to right now, but it's complaining about its pH, and you read in its description, perhaps that we're still deciding things, but you read in here what range of pH it cares most for, or maybe you go to the internet and you search for this fish and you find that out. We have done the research and its data's in there. So then you go, okay, well, it probably needs a different pH. What's the pH at right now? And you find out that it's acidic. How do I change that? Oh, I need to change the CO2 balance. And it turns out there are a few other reasons why that might be the way it is. And suddenly you're solving a Sudoku puzzle, which makes for interesting decisions and a balancing act that is extremely video gamey. Now, we know not everybody wants this. They just want a chill thing where they're building pretty tanks. We see you, we understand, and I promise you there will be a number of tools and settings and whatever else to turn that experience either off or down or whatever. Also, just like in the real world, sometimes you don't need to be much of a chemist to keep fish. You just buy the hardware that filters the water, you do water changes, you don't overfeed, and you don't change your water parameters very much. That is part of this update. We'll be doing hardware in conjunction with the chemistry, and we think of that as a balancer for the chaos of the real system, but also a way for you to engage with it that isn't just looking at a graph, because that's not particularly fun. So the hardware portion of the update is sitting currently behind getting this right. So we have models being made. I am deciding on how the stuff will be manipulated and where you get it and what the menus will look like and all of that stuff. And there will be a day where it all comes together and suddenly the full loop is there. But right now there's a lot of R&D going on. But so if you're a player who just wants the pretty thing, we have been thinking about that. We want that to be true. Before we just include a setting that's like always make the water pretty, I think it's important to get the hob filters and where'd the word go? The heaters and the CO2 drop checkers and the flow pipes and all of that stuff to work as a game. And then when it's balanced, then I'll have a setting down here that's like turn off the chemistry interactions, and it'll just be pretty and you can make stuff. In that light, we also have plans for creative mode because, of course, we want to just make pretty things sometimes, and sometimes all of the tanks having problems is too much. We get it. And obviously here we've got time controls. That's going to be a part of this as well. So I realized that just working by myself is probably not the best way to signal what we're doing. So like I said, I've written something up. There's a longer thing you can read as well. And in the meantime, there's a lot of great stuff going on here. I'm probably a little too close to it to tell if this is nerdy beyond belief and if it is interesting to anyone else. But I do think that it's the most honest look at what fish keeping is and the harder side of it that tends to make people bounce. I think when the system is whirring away underneath the hood here, and all of the, stuff is visible on this graph and affecting the fish and the plants directly, then we'll have the right foundation for making tools that show what's happening and why it's happening and give you some control over that. And when we're done, new players who've never kept fish before should be capable of becoming intermediate to advanced water parameter chemists for their own tanks at home, should they ever want to do that. Not that it matters, because this is a video game. What matters about that is that it means the thing is real and it's working the way the real thing works, which will make the game richer, more interesting, and the best one that's ever been made for if you're looking for the simulation of keeping a tank. So thank you all for watching. We're very busy getting these things done, but we're super available, especially on our Discord. We're also on the Steam boards, but frankly, I can't be all over the internet all the time. The best place to find us is the Discord. So if you have questions, need help with something, want to know about the update more, come on over there, and either I or one of our super helpful and nice mods will be able to answer your questions. We'd love to hear from you. So again, thanks for watching, and hope you have a great day. Bye.